Hey everybody! I am back with another Disney build, and this time it's a pretty iconic one, I guess. This is Cinderella's castle. So because of the length that this build took, the amount of time it took, I chopped up this video kind of a lot. The actual very beginning wasn't my fault. So I've had problems with my video or my screen recorder in the past. Mostly just because I couldn't figure out why. Like, I would put it on and it would just stop. And I think I finally figured it out, and it's like a silly technicality, but you know, those are the things that get you, right? Because while I'm playing, I usually there's a couple like automatic, I don't even know, I guess the computer programmed them, but there's like some keys on my keyboard that link to my iTunes, so when I'm building, I listen to my music and I hit those keys. And I think if I hit one of the, like maybe the pause key, it also goes to my screen recorder. So I think it stops it, and I don't realize it, of course, until I've like reached a milestone in my build. So, but every time I don't do music and I have like a movie on or something in the background, on the actual TV, the screen recording does not stop. So I think that's it. So I apologize for there not being a beginning on this build. But yeah, so just so you know though, this is gonna be part one of the Cinderella's castle. It is not the interior, so this is the entire exterior. I tried to follow some of the more normal, I don't know. It's not even like regulation or anything, but it's like how other speed builders do it on YouTube, where they do the exterior and then the interior if they have to split up their build into two parts. And I mean, I guess it makes sense. Like, I understand doing the build part, but I usually save landscaping for last. So this time I did it after I finished the build part. So I mean, I guess it worked out, and it helps make a pretty part one, I guess, right? So in case you didn't know, I am building again on The Sims 3, and I am doing two different series. They're kind of fresh and new at the moment. So the first one, of course, that this build is a part of is my Disney builds, and then the second one is After the Apocalypse builds. So it's a series of builds that are kind of decrepit, and it's supposed to be like the apocalypse happened. So yeah, if you want to go check out my other videos, please go check out my channel. So as far as Disney builds go, this was incredibly frustrating. Like I said, I love watching other builders on YouTube. They are my prime background noise and like source of like flat entertainment kind of thing. Like, so if I'm not involved and I just want something to relax like my brain, I go watch speed builds on YouTube. Gosh, that's kind of sad. I don't know why, but they just like relax me to watch and to like listen to the voiceovers. But yeah, so like, and a lot of times people say that the build part is their favorite. Like, they love the build and then they put off doing the interior for a while because they just don't enjoy it. And I think I'm the opposite. I like doing the interiors and making things look pretty. Like the actual initial build of this, first was the roofs. Roofing in The Sims 3, it's not a nightmare. It actually can work out okay. Like, I actually think it's pretty... I think it's all right as far as like normal houses go, but castles, like castle roofing, this was so frustrating. I was just like, by the time I finished the outer wall, I was just like so mad in general, like mad at like the universe, just like grrr walking around. So yeah, I did basically most of the roofing one day, and then I just stopped and waited a while and then continued to build. So yeah, that happened. I do think The Sims 4 has a way better roofing system as far as their building goes, and I wish I had that in The Sims 3 instead, or like, I guess vice versa, like most of the building system from The Sims 3 into The Sims 4 with The Sims 4 roofing. Gosh, so yeah. So that was kind of funny. And it's actually kind of weird because as I was building this, like, I just kept thinking it was so ugly. Like, the whole time I'm like, this is the ugliest looking castle. I'm trying to follow the pictures as best as I can, but it's so ugly. And then I colored it. Like, you know, put the brick on and the blue roofs, and suddenly it just kind of came together. And again, I was once again reminded of how important texturing is, of coloring stuff, right? So if you have like a build that just looks weird, or like you don't know why, maybe you're matching the colors too soon, because I choose things by their shape first, and then I go through and recolor everything. So yeah, that's why it looks so weird and mishmashed right now, is because I hadn't done that yet. So yeah, and also there's a trick in here that I used for Beast's Castle from Beauty and the Beast. It's the same trick from there. Because you're only allowed 5 floors in Sims 3, and for me that's actually 4, because I almost always use a foundation, and a foundation counts as a floor. So because of that, you really can't go very high in The Sims. It's the same in The Sims 4. For some reason, like, oh my god, I remember in The Sims 2, there was a cheat that you could put on, and it lets you put on as many, or maybe it was like a maximum. It might have been like 20 floors instead of just like the 4 that you were allowed. And once I discovered that, there was like no going back. I was just like, I'm making the tallest builds. And I guess my game was kind of laggy because of that, but like the freedom was just like, yes, it was great. So the fact that you don't have that anymore for Sims 3 and 4 is like super frustrating for me. I think in the future, like they should have a game where, I understand there being a max because they don't want people to go crazy and like crash their games and have a bunch of customers complaining about it. So I understand that, but if there's a cheat to just like unlock unlimited floors as far as building goes in a future Sims game, I don't even know, but when, but in the future, whatever. That's probably one of my biggest wish lists items. I would love to make the biggest build possible. Something else from another builder on YouTube, Hatsy. If you haven't seen her stuff, go see it. It's amazing. I'll talk about her later probably. But Hatsy even mentions like several times that her dream in The Sims is to eventually have a 100 by 100 plot. So in case you don't know, right now in The Sims 3 and The Sims 4, the biggest plot you can have is 64 by 64, which is, it's pretty sizable. But like, Hatsy is like she builds mansions. She is the big builds builder. Like that's kind of, I think, what she's known for. And I can kind of relate as far as these castle builds go. So like, oh my gosh, if I just had like the biggest lot, 100 by 100 would be like a dream come true. With unlimited floors, you could basically make a replica, like an actual scaled replica with full interiors of a castle like this. And I think that would be like so much fun. Like I honestly would just like have a blast doing that kind of thing. But unfortunately for right now, this is what we have to work with. And because of that, I have to do this little like cheat, or technically it's not a cheat because like you don't have to input any like commands or anything, but it's like a workaround, I guess is the more proper name. You see me doing it right here a little bit. So it's basically where you raise the floor up as high as you want it to go, and then you put a foundation on, and then you can build on top of that foundation the extra 4 floors, and you can put the terrain back down, and the foundation just keeps going all the way down. I guess the foundation just goes down into the depths of the sim earth. I don't know where it actually ends up. But that's how I get those really tall towers, is they're not actually attached to the main part of the building. They are separate towers that are built on different leveled terrain, and that's how they get so high. So yeah, if you're ever wondering of how I do that, that is how. And you can, like I said, see a little glimpse of it in this build. So at this point, you can see I'm finally recoloring things. And if you see like the game, or not the game, if you see my video kind of like pause a little bit, that's usually me pulling up my reference to make sure I'm doing the right thing. Because Cinderella's castle is white and blue, and then there's pops of gold. And that is like the whole castle. And a lot of things I kind of made do with, like in the back, I kind of like made this cool little back garden with an extra wall piece going around. I think there's technically a wall in Walt Disney World, but like, of course, that's where like, you know, tourists walk to go from ride to ride. It's not an actual like standing castle in the middle of beautiful wilderness. So I kind of had to make some of this up as I went. But yeah, I think I actually did a pretty good job as far as replicating the pictures that I had, my reference. Um, so yeah, like, oh my goodness. This was hardcore. Like I said, I got so frustrated with it. I don't even know. But once it started coming together, it just became enjoyable. By the time I think I got to about here with the recoloring and I realized it was looking good, then it got like more fun for me. Until then though, it was just like, grr. um, let's see. So yeah, like I said, this is certainly not even close, I think, to the first Cinderella's Castle done that I've seen on YouTube. I've seen, let's see, one other one done on The Sims 3, but it was kind of a time lapse. It wasn't really a speed build. I would have liked for them to do a voiceover, but I understand, like, sometimes it's hard, and sometimes it's hard to just talk. Like, talking for this long in a video is actually pretty difficult. I've run out of ideas before on my other ones and had to like redo certain parts just because it's like you run out of thoughts. And let's see, and Hatsie, like I said, I'm pretty sure I think Hatsie is my favorite Sims builder. I don't know if she'll ever see this, but she kind of is. Not necessarily because like I think she's better than anyone else. I really don't. I think she's a good builder and there are other really good builders, but I think it's a combination of that. And I like her subject matter. Like I said, she does castles and pretty grand estates. And I think those are really like cool builds. Like I like to push the limit as far as those things are concerned. And I think she does that really well. And also she's a very charismatic person. Like the way she talks is just easy to listen to. Like I said, I kind of watch speed build videos to relax a little bit or just as background noise while I'm working because it kind of soothes me. And I find Hatsie's voice to be very soothing. Like, I don't know why, what it is about, like, I think she's from England, but I feel like there's like an extra lilt or something to her voice and I'm like, this is good. Just put on Hatsie's videos, we're fine. Gosh, okay, so that was a way too long for me to be talking about another builder, but obviously you can tell that I like her a lot. So if Hatsie ever sees this, thanks a lot. You're an inspiration. Love you, girl. Yeah, so she actually does a series of Disney builds. She hasn't done like everything, but her stuff is so pretty. And she did a version of Cinderella's Castle, which I thought it's so pretty. I try to do what she does. I think what she and several other builders do as well is to make like a kind of look or a pattern on the side of a building. They take items and they like layer them on top. And of course it's The Sims 4, so they size things up to make that layering look good. And I kind of try to accomplish that in certain areas around this castle to various levels of success. But I tried. So that's gonna be it. Yeah. So now I'm trying to make this top spire here. So I think by the end of this you'll see what I mean by me trying to decorate this spire, because this spire is supposed to be gold. Like it's cool. It's this cool accented gold rooftop, and oh my gosh, that was another thing about the roofs. I couldn't get them to go high enough. I wanted to just make things super pointy, and the game won't let you. Like, it just, like, stops, and I'm like, no, the roof needs to be higher. I couldn't make it. So I was, like, trying to fake it in certain areas, and other areas, like, I just made other roofs shorter in comparison to make them look taller. But, oh my goodness, like, ugh. Okay, I'll stop talking about roofs now. So, let's see here. So yeah, Cinderella's Castle. This is pretty iconic. It is, I don't know, I feel like any builder worth their salt eventually tries to build Cinderella's castle. Like, if they're going to build a castle, it's going to be Cinderella's. So I guess this was inevitable. I mean, I did say I'm going to do Disney build, so Cinderella's castle is an inevitable build. And like I said, I think this is actually the most difficult one I've had so far. I don't know why, but Beast Castle was not nearly as difficult as this. And I think it maybe should have been, or maybe, I don't even know. I don't know. I actually do not know why Beast Castle was so much easier in comparison to this one. I just felt like it was, this was such a frustrating build. But like I said, in the end, I think it turned out really good. It looks like a fairy tale, in my opinion. And of that, I'm pretty proud. Um, yeah, so in case you haven't, or in case you don't know, this castle is based off of the one in Walt Disney World in Orlando, Florida. Let's see, I grew up in South Florida, so I mean, I've been to Disney World several times. I've never been to Disneyland, though, in California, which eventually I will get there, but I just haven't ever been. I don't think I've ever, yeah, oh, I've never been to California. I haven't. I had to like double check in my mind just then, but no, I have not. But I would love to go one day, mostly just for Disneyland, to be fair. But yeah, so it's actually kind of cool. Like, I know they have Sleeping Beauty's castle is technically in Disneyland, in case you didn't know. So Disney World has Cinderella and Disneyland has Sleeping Beauty. But the castles in the theme parks actually do not look very much like the ones in the films. Like, this castle actually really doesn't look like the one in Cinderella. Like the actual, I think it was like 1950, I think, or 60. It came out in either 1950 or 60 on one of those round years, is how I remember it. But when Cinderella came out, the original animated film, the castle is kind of like in the background and it's like a painted backdrop, and it does not look like this. It's like super tall and just fairy tale like, I guess. So it wasn't much, it's not much of a build to look at. On the other hand though, however, the castle that actually exists in Disney World, I think still is very reflective of that painted backdrop. But on the other hand, on the opposite side, as far as comparing the castle from Sleeping Beauty, the animated film, to the one that is built in the center of Disneyland in California, I don't think they look very similar. Like, I don't know. I feel like the castle in Disneyland is just more like another fairy tale castle, that it's not very Sleeping Beauty-esque, while this one I feel is very Cinderella-esque, for lack of a better term. So when I eventually get to Sleeping Beauty's castle, I think I'm going to try to base it more off the movie one, or maybe even, I have to double check, I don't remember exactly what it looks like, the one from Maleficent, because I'm sure the castle appears in there. I don't remember how it looks though. However, after this build, Sleeping Beauty's castle, I can tell you that I am not looking forward to, just because, again, I know Sleeping Beauty's castle is a very tall castle, like it's got very, very tall towers, it's gothic, like that's the whole style of the whole movie is Sleeping Beauty, is like a gothic Renaissance painting, like the backdrops are just so beautiful. If you go look at the painted backdrops behind the actual characters, Sleeping Beauty is a very beautiful movie. So I'm kind of not looking forward to having to build that castle, but I'm gonna do it because, oh my gosh, you have to, right? You have to try. Yeah, actually, I think maybe after I finish this one, the next build I'm probably gonna try to do is the Tremaine estate, which is which is Cinderella's stepmom. So I guess in case you didn't know, her stepmother's name is Lady Tremaine, and the two evil stepsisters, right? Or ugly stepsisters, they're not technically evil. It's the evil stepmom and the ugly stepsisters, which is, like, interesting. Yeah, so I think I'm going to try to make the Tremaine estate next. So that would have to include, where Cinderella works and her little dusty attic room and things like that. And that'll be more like a mansion build, or a manor. I don't think I want to make it quite as big as like a full giant mansion. I would want to make it more like a manor, because they're supposed to be a well-off family, but they're not like super rich. So I'll probably keep that one on a medium-sized building. So yeah, and it's kind of funny to think about, because Cinderella is one of the only classic-ish princesses that doesn't have a cottage. Like, I didn't really realize it until I was thinking about the different builds to do, how many princesses have cottages. There are so many. There's I've already done Belle's cottage, and there's Sleeping Beauty's cottage, and Snow White has a cottage, and technically the Seven Dwarfs cottage, but it's, her cottage. Like, there's just cottages everywhere. I guess fairy tales just have a thing for cottages. Gosh, I say that a lot. I'm sorry if my language idiosyncrasies or whatever they're called kind of bother you. It's like I said, it's just like hard to talk for so long and not have myself say a lot or so. Yeah, see, I just did it there. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'll stop. I went on and started doing the landscaping. So as I said, I kind of cut out a bunch of the building because I think it got boring, just me putting in windows and stuff. If there's certain sections of builds that you like to see, like, I don't know, if like your favorite part of a building is putting in windows, let me know, because then I won't cut that part out and maybe I'll cut out a different part. But yeah, landscaping, like, I actually had a lot more fun doing. I'm not as good at landscaping. I've said this in the past, but I think I'm getting better. And I think this build, the landscaping turned out better than I thought it would. So I was actually kind of proud of it. It was also kind of nice going to this from my Apocalypse build, because, like, it is weird. It is such a difference going from making a building that's weathered and decayed and gross looking because it's, like, you know, been attacked by the world, right? And then going to this ultimate fairy tale castle that is, it's not like prim and proper, it's not medieval. Like, I think Sleeping Beauty's castle is kind of medieval, and then if you think about it, like, Snow White's castle is kind of like, it's more of like a classic castle with, like, it's not tall. It doesn't really have high pillars. It's more low to the ground, like an actual German castle, I think. So, like, yeah, like, this is the most classic fairy tale castle I think I can think of. And it was fun. I'm glad it's cool. I'm glad I finished it. Excuse my yawn. I don't even know. The interior is going to be intense. Unfortunately, the interior is going to be a bit smaller, so the ballroom is going to have to be a bit smaller. Like, I know in the film... Okay, so in the animated film Cinderella, if you go back and watch it, every single frickin' room in that castle is massive. I swear, like, the hallway is, like, it has to be 3 stories tall, just the hallway. And I understand it's supposed to, like, represent Regency and regal stuff, but there's just not going to be enough room in this build for that kind of height. I did not build it that way, otherwise this would not have worked out. Like, I don't even know, without, like, a bazillion floors, I don't think that's actually possible for me to build, so I didn't. But there will be a ballroom, it's like a throne / ballroom, and it will be somewhat smaller, but I'm gonna try my best. And other than that, like, just a couple bedrooms and stuff, because I know the king's bedroom needs to be in there, and then of course I would assume the prince's bedroom should be in there. And then there's a separate, like, section, if you noticed, off there to the left. I'm actually working next to it right now. So that's like a separate section from the main build, and I think I'm going to try to make that like a servants' quarters kind of area. So maybe some, like, extra small bedrooms, and I don't know. Maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll change my mind completely by the time I get to it, because as of now, I have not finished this build. I just did the outside, and the inside has not even been attempted. There are still, like, stray walls just, like, jutting in that are not colored. That's how unfinished this is. And let's see, I also cut out at the very end of this. I stopped the recording because I didn't... It would have just taken up too much time. This is already a super long video anyway. Thanks so much for sticking with me if you've made it even this far, and if you even make it to the end after this. But I did cut out putting in all the lights. So there are, like, about a bazillion lights that I do put in on this build at the end that you don't see. And they're going to be in the pictures. They were at the picture at the beginning when you see the castle all lit up at night. And I think that's very important because, I mean, the castle at Disney World is always lit up. Like, the whole night, it's beautiful. And they actually have it where, like, the lights change colors on it. Like I said, I've been to Disney World a lot. I grew up in Florida, and that was always, like, a thing that we did, was go to Disney World. Even if it was, like, a passive thing, we'd go for, like, a day at Epcot and stroll around. And it's like we'd always try to go in the off season, like, and it got to the point where like me and my friends, we knew which rides to go on first because of like the lines and stuff. Like there was a time with the fast pass and stuff that we would like never wait in line, like ever. The maximum wait time we would ever have on the line is like 10 minutes, just because we knew how to like plot the park so well. Now it's a little bit more difficult because they have like a new fast pass system, which is like a way to fast pass lines. In case you didn't know, I would recommend you look that up if you're ever going to Disney World, is make sure you do your fast passes, because that's some important stuff right there as far as having a good time. Because I think what makes Disney World so draining is like, one, it's busy, so tourists, right? And everybody goes during the same time of year. So if you go in the off season, it's like 10 times more enjoyable. Like I would never go at Christmas. As beautiful as things would be in Disney World at Christmas, I don't know if it would be worth all the people. I don't find that very enjoyable. And then let's see here, that and wait times. I think wait times just have a way of taking it out of you. So if it's like already a hot Florida day and you're there and you're not prepared for it, like if you didn't bring your own water bottles and stuff, and then you're waiting and standing just standing, you're not even walking, but standing for hours on end for a line, that's not fun. And I can see how people just like disintegrate. And I can actually like notice it. It's funny because I go and I can actually see other tourists who are not like familiar with the system basically, or who don't know any better. Like you can see the suffering in their postures and eyes, and it's like, yeah, you just have to know what you're doing. It's almost just like I've beat the system, I know what to do. But that's because of that though, Disney is like a super fun time for me. Like whenever me and friends or me and family go, I have a great time, and I'm like a fully grown adult. I shouldn't enjoy Disney as much as I do, but we all do, so it's not just me. Yeah, and of course it was like a staple of our childhoods. Disney is always like a positive influence. I don't know. It's like I feel like you grew up with it and you were completely in love, and then you went through like or most people at least, including myself, went through like that tomboy stage where like, princesses, no, I don't want to be that stereotype. And then it's like you hit like your mid to late teens and it's just like the world is so miserable. You're like, fairy tales, yay, so much prettiness, I want to be a princess again. So I think that's kind of what happened with me and all my friends. We were just like princess fanatics. We think they're great and we have fun with it. And yeah, it's just a good time for us. I don't know. It's fun, and rides are always fun. Like we love riding the rides and stuff. And if you go to like Universal, roller coasters are my thing. I love roller coasters. Oh my goodness. So yeah, man. Yeah, if you ever go, or you want any other tips on Disney World, let me know. I think I have them all. I think I go like every year. It's kind of a tradition. My mom and I, we tend to go every spring to the Flower and Garden Festival in Epcot is where we go. Epcot, I think, is a lot of fun as an adult. As a kid, or if you have children, Epcot is not a fun place to be, I don't think. It's a lot of concrete, and it's not very interesting to children in general, I don't think. But if you were there to like just kind of peruse and have a good time and like drink around the world and stuff like that, Epcot is a blast. Like it can just be so much fun to just stroll around and take your mosey old time with it. And the Flower and Garden Festival in spring is like beautiful. They have the whole park has just a bunch of beautiful planted, and they have like topiary everywhere, and it's a gorgeous place to be during that time of year. So my mom and I always go there just to like relax and like wander around. It's kind of like our chief bonding time during every year, because I don't live at home anymore, so it's like we don't really see each other all that much. So spring is great. So if I had to recommend certain times, I would recommend that, because I've been to Epcot during, like, say there's another festival in the fall, the Food and Wine Festival, and the food is great. Like, I will admit, I tried a bunch of food, and they have pretty good food during their Food and Wine Festival, as they should, per its name, but it's also extraordinarily crowded. For some reason, I don't know why the Flower and Garden Festival is less crowded than the Food and Wine Festival, but it kind of is. Or maybe it was just like the times of year that I went, but I just didn't enjoy it as much. Yeah, so that's, I guess, my full talk on Disney. Wow, I've barely talked about the build. I'm so sorry. I mean, I talked about it a little. I built up, I told you some tips. Right now, I'm trying to make the landscaping still. I've been landscaping for a while, in case you haven't noticed. Um, so there's that kind of like flat bridge. I was kind of thankful that in the pictures, the bridge in the front of this castle was not curved, because curved bridges are like, they take some time and effort and planning to do. And this one was not that. And I was like, yes. Like, I was just like hardcore happy about it. So I just like piled rocks up. I eventually actually put a little mini waterfall down there in that little section of rocks that comes out from the back garden. Because I considered that like maybe there's like an underground water main that goes through, and that's what also fuels the fountains in the back garden. So there's not like a river, but I thought it fit all right. So this is, oh my gosh, yeah. So I paused kind of here. I did things pretty slowly because I was trying to look up what the actual code was for the waterfall. In case you don't know, this fog emitter, you can find it under the by debug mode. So you put in the testing cheats enabled true, and then you put in by debug, and then it's this blue little sphere. It's called a fog emitter. And yes, if you just put one down, it emits fog, like all normal, like it's this kind of spooky layered fog. And it's an effect that you only see in live mode or live mode. I've always called it live mode. I don't know if it's either. But, so yeah, the effects from the fog emitters you only see in live mode or live mode. Anyway. So if you don't know about those, I would recommend you know about those because they're pretty cool. So like you can see right there, you can see my little waterfall going down through the rocks, and I thought it ended up looking pretty good. Yeah, so the fog emitter can do a bunch of things. It's basically like an effects emitter is what it should be called, because if you put in the right code, it like you can have like the little swirls happen from when a sim ages up, or you can have actual fogs or different lights or beams of light, or in this case waterfalls, and there's fountains, there's all sorts of stuff. Like if you just go and scroll through the effects that emitter can put out, like they're pretty cool. I've basically only really used them for fog, glows, and waterfalls. Those are like the three things I use the fog emitter for. Because for the most part, I think I can get the same effects in other places just as well. So yeah, the next thing you see is also with my landscaping here. I used this super dark Hidden Springs landscape terrain as far as grass terrain goes. And it looks, it's funny because it looks really jarring compared to the landscaping of this world. The world that I use for these builds is, it's a small world called Castle Land, I think. And it's got nothing in it. It's just a bunch of plots. And in the middle, there's just this really big, it's a 64 by 64 lot in the middle of an island. And because the world is so small and there's nothing else on it, the world loads really quickly. So if I'm going to do a big build, especially a castle build like this, I like to build in this world just because it helps my operating system to go, right? So like, and I guess that, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, so, however, the world itself is colored kind of, what is it? What's the word? Like, not dirty, but like, I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. You know what I mean, though. Like, the grasses aren't very, whoa, sorry. My headphone got a little tangled there. But, like, the grasses aren't very green, and, things are kind of dead looking, because it's, like, this really, like, spooky island kind of thing. Well, it's not spooky, though. It doesn't have mist or anything. It's just, like, an old medieval-looking island. It's not fairy tale, I guess is what I'm trying to say. It's more realistic. But because this build, in particular, Cinderella's Castle, is supposed to be fairy tale, I wanted to have that bright, super saturated fairy tale grass. So I guess if you put this build into another world, you would just have to blend the outer edges of that grass into the same shade as the grass around. I do know for a fact that the dark grass is from Hidden Springs, so if you have that, sorry, my cat is like going crazy. But yeah, if you put this build into Hidden Springs, the grasses will probably match up a bit better. But just right now in this world, the change in textures looks looks pretty jarring, and I admit that's there. But if you zoom in, or like in some of my screenshots where I've zoomed in and you don't see the edge, I think it looks like really pretty. I think it looks really magical. Like, I think it looks really cool. So that's why I made that kind of executive decision to put in that dark green base for my grass color. And I think it just made it all pop. It just, I think with all the trouble that I had, that I'm actually pretty proud of this world. Of this build. Like, it turned out, it turned out so fairy tale like. It did. I wasn't expecting it to turn out as good as it did, at least in my opinion. Gosh, I sound like a little bit self-inflating, but I mean, if you agree, tell me. And if you think there was something that I could have done better, or like a way that I should have done something, tell me that too. Because again, suggestions I love. I would love to hear feedback on any of my builds. Like, honestly, I would love to hear anything. And of course, like I said, I won't have this build available anytime until the interior is finished. If you have any suggestions for the interior about like certain rooms that there should be, let me know too. That would be actually pretty cool. Just having suggestions, I would love that. Yeah, oh my gosh. So I'm just trying to copy some topiary and things like that. So filling up these spaces in the back was very confusing. I wasn't really sure what to do with the open space. So it was more like me just like scattering some bushes and flowers and stuff. And in the end, I ended up putting down there in the bare corner right now, that corner there that's still bare, I ended up putting horse stables, because, I mean, I guess Cinderella would have her own stables. Technically, like, there would be like a separate equestrian center, but for the sake of the build, yeah, I just made up like horse stables, because like if you're gonna actually have people living here, you're probably gonna want to have like white horses or something. The other thing that I found kind of annoying for that, it's funny, I always flip-flop, because there's something in The Sims 3 that is either very handy or very annoying depending on what you're doing, and it goes back and forth so much. I'm sure there's a shortcut for it. There has to be like a shortcut, like you hold down a button and it just stays the same size. But when you put down trees and bushes, there are like 2 or 3 sizes to those trees and bushes, and when you put them down, like it just kind of goes through them. So like for these tall trees there in the row, I had to like keep clicking until like the size that I wanted came out, and then delete the short ones, which was kind of annoying. But in other times though, when you're just trying to make it like an area look variegated, or is that the word? Variegated? I don't know. Then it's super handy, and then you end up loving it. So I don't even know. I don't know if The Sims 4 has that feature or not. I have not played The Sims 4 enough to know. I know certain things because I played it a little bit, and then I know other things because I watch other people build and their speed builds and stuff. But other than that, I actually don't know that much about The Sims 4 building sections or how certain functionalities work. I guess. Like, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of dated as far as this all is concerned, because I do prefer The Sims 3 over 4. I can talk about that a little later, I guess. Or in another speed build if you want. I've talked about it a little bit before in the past in my Gaston's Tavern speed build. But yeah. Oh, well, hey, here's the end of the video. These are my screenshots, and like I said, I think this actually turned out really, really as a beautiful castle. So let me know what you think, drop me a like, and thanks so much for watching. See you guys later. Bye.